Okay, this is going to be a quick look at the mixed executive system or semi-presidential executive system. Basically, this is a combination of the presidential system and the cabinet system, which we studied before. Uh, and this system was created in France in the Fifth Republican Constitution of France, and Charles de Gaulle is considered as the founder of this constitution. Um, Basically, the intention was creating a system where you can protect the pros and cons, the pros of both presidential and cabinet systems and avoid cons, right? Ideally, to create a stable and efficient as well as democratic system, because in presidential and cabinet, one of the two are going to be compromised. So this is the format. Something you all are familiar with is sort of like these graphs, right? These depictions. So you can see people, they elect the president separately in a presidential election. They elect the parliament separately in a parliamentary election. So whoever has the majority in the parliament becomes the prime minister and the board of ministers, and those people are appointed by the president. So together they are considered the executive. And if the legislature rejects any of the decisions of the executive, it's the prime minister and the cabinet that is going to be dissolved. Okay, so the president stays. The president has some stability. Meanwhile, the prime minister and the cabinet is there to add some democratic democratic features into the system. So if you look at the main features, first it's a mixed executive. So that's number one. So the executive is consisted of two parts. President is directly appointed by the people, and prime minister and the cabinet they're appointed by the through the legislature, depending on the parliamentary uh, majority. And of course, the president being the main role, which is why we normally call the mixed executive system as the um, semi-presidential system, rather than saying it's a semi-cabinet system, right? Semi-presidential system, because president still holds, as you can see, all four top positions: head of the state, head of the government, head of the armed forces, head of the executive. All four, they are given to the president. So technically, it's a presidential system, right? The prime minister and the cabinet are simply there to support the president. So president handles the main role. President is the main actor in the system. Then the part of the executive is being controlled by the legislature. Of course, it's the prime minister and the cabinet who are appointed through the legislature, who are controlled by the legislature. They are the ones who actually, uh, that part is the part that is controlled by the legislature. And of course, you have cohabitation governments. This is the important part. Cohabitation governments occur when the parliamentary election is won by a different party and the presidential election is won by a different party, right? So in this case, since as you can see, this is the depiction. Now you can see the party that has the green, like the green political party, they have won the presidential election. So president is from the green side, and you can see here the majority of the legislature is still secured by uh, the blue party people, and the green party people fails to secure the majority, which means the prime minister had to be chosen from the blue side, and the ministers as well. And the president doesn't have a support from the legislature because president has a minority power here, whereas prime minister is the one who actually has the majority. So this is known as a cohabitation government. So when a cohabitation occurs, president sort of has to sit aside and let the prime minister handle the governance, because prime minister has the support from the legislature. So in these cases, you can see normally the president is the main role. So the semi-presidential system is like a presidential system in disguise. But you can see when a cohabitation happens, it sort of transforms into like an unofficial um, cabinet format government. One more thing that needs to be mentioned: even in a cohabitation, even when a cohabitation in effect, right? You can see that these four positions we talked about, head of the state, head of the executive, head of the government, and highest commanding officer of armed forces, all four are still given to the president, right? Officially. But in practicality, right? So here you can see practicality. In practicality, the head of the government position goes practically acts as the head of the government, in practicality, which is why like I mentioned that word several times, because officially still the president is the head of the government, but again in practicality you can see president has to sit out because president doesn't have the support from the legislature. And these kind of cohabitations often results in a lot of conflicts because the president and prime minister get into conflicts. And the ideal example is in 2002 when Ranil Wickremesinghe won the uh, parliamentary election. The presidential election was initially won by Chandrika Bandaranaike, and that government didn't go last long. It was only there for about 2 years because there were so many conflicts. Right. So the advantages, let's look into one by one. First, protecting both efficiency and democracy is because, as you can see, that this was the main reason. This is the whole reason that they decided to put efficiency and sorry, they decided to put cabinet and presidential systems together because they wanted to protect pros from both sides and avoid cons. So the problem with the cabinet system it was democratic, that it had like a controllable executive, but on the other hand it was not efficient and it was not stable. The other hand, presidential system gives you a stable and an efficient executive, but in terms of democracy the president is like hardly controlled. So you try to put them together to create a system where you have half the executive is efficient, half the executive is very democratic. So that's the first advantage. You get to protect both. Uh, if you read what it says, since the mixed executive system has a president as well as a prime minister who is responsible to the legislature, it protects efficiency as well as democratic nature. The president has the opportunity to make decisions, make strong decisions, while the prime minister and the cabinet maintains accountability with the legislature. So sort of like protect both ends from in practical politics. Then allowing more members to the executive. You can see mixed executive system allows many more members to participate in the executive, handles responsibilities of the prime minister and other ministers because um, you have a president as well as a prime minister and cabinet. That means it's like the maximum number of people you can allow in a cabinet. So you have more members, and obviously we saw before in the cabinet system also, you can provide representation for different groups when you can allow more people to the legislature. Sorry, to the executive. Then having experienced future leaders. So this is basically, in a presidential system, it's a president who single-handedly controls the country, and the vice president doesn't really get to do much. Okay. So in a cabinet system, of course, the prime minister sort of like handles the country, and the other cabinet ministers, none of them are like technically deputy prime minister, right? So you have like a prime minister, and other ministers are just ministers. And if you have a presidential system, you have president and vice president. Vice president doesn't get to do much, right? But here, since you have a president and a prime minister, so prime minister is technically the deputy leader of the country, and he is taking part in cabinet activities and all that. So the prime minister is potentially a qualified next leader, right? So you have the president, then you have the prime minister to take over when the president retires or if the president dies or something. Then you have other ministers to take become the prime minister as well. So it's like a hierarchy of systems, and it creates like layers of leaders, and it creates more leaders for the country, right? Since the mixed executive system consists of both a president and a prime minister, the country has a leader as well as a deputy leader. The position of the prime minister has more practical tasks and responsibilities than a vice president in a presidential system. Therefore, the prime minister in a mixed executive system is more qualified as a future leader. Other senior ministers also have sufficient experience to fill in the role of the prime minister. Therefore, it can be seen that the mixed executive system has a very effective system of training future leaders. Right. Then the responsibility of uniting the country while protecting diversity. This is little advanced comparing to other features that we studied. So basically, we are talking about scenario is something that you need to understand here, right? Uh, there is a problem when it comes to the cabinet system as well as the presidential system. Okay, so in a presidential system, as we saw before, you can only represent one ethnicity. You can only represent one ethnicity, you can only represent one gender, one age, because it's just one person, it's a solitary executive, right? So that way, when it comes to a multi-ethnic country, let's say Sri Lanka, if we had a presidential system, which means we would only have a president, the sole executive, that president is going to be a Sinhalese. He's going to be a Sinhalese Buddhist. That means he wouldn't represent the minorities. Like technically, he's the president for everyone, but maybe the minority groups may feel that this leader does not represent us. Like he's not. He's not. He's like he's a stranger to us. Like we are not very familiar with him. Even the other age groups, like if the president is like an old president, like the younger people would not connect with him properly. If it's a man, the women in the country won't connect to him properly. So in the cabinet system, that you can sort of like avoid this problem, because you can allow more ministers in the cabinet. You can have like people from different ethnicities, different religions, different age groups, different genders. So everyone would feel like, okay, this executive has a representation from us, someone from our community, someone who is like us, they are in this. So every community can be represented. But however, in cabinet system, this sort of can backfire, because let's say a minority group may only listen to that particular few ministers. It's like, okay, these are our ministers, others aren't our ministers. Younger people would listen to the younger ministers, not to the old ministers. Uh, then a particular gender, they would listen to the ministers from their gender, and like not connect with the others. So although it provides representation to every social layer, this can sort of backfire and create like a division among the people, because then sort of like dividing people in the executive itself. This can be avoided in a presidential system, because you have one leader that you are supposed to look up to him. You have a leader, maybe he's not from your ethnicity, maybe he's not from your age group, maybe he's not from your gender, but you be like, yeah, we are one country, we need to have one leader to look up to. So people sort of learn to be united despite their differences and embrace that person as a leader. Okay. So you also that when Barack Obama came, he was a black person, he was the president, but the white people and black people and Hispanic people, all those people, they embrace Obama as their leader. So that part is there when it comes to the presidential system. But on the other hand, it has a problem that it can make people feel left out, because they feel like they don't have a representative in the executive. Cabinet system provides that representation for each group, and that can create division. So you can see it sort of ends up creating a problem while fixing one. You put the presidential one, then people have a common leader to look up to, but also the communities may feel left out, and this person doesn't represent us. You go cabinet, everyone has someone to sort of like feel like this person is representing us in the executive, but then they lack a common leader to look up to, as like this is our leader, and that can divide the people. So if you go mixed executive system, semi-presidential, this can be actually avoided, because you have a president and you have a cabinet with ministers. So that one particular leader as the president, it can be that one leader people actually can look up to, right? So we have a president in Sri Lanka, right? So when we have a president in Sri Lanka, people can look up to him from different communities, that, okay, this is one common leader we have. Maybe he's not from our community, maybe he's not from our age group, maybe not from our gender, but we need to have one leader and we need to look up to him as one nation. So president can unite the people that way. Meantime, none of the communities don't feel left out, because the executive would have, the cabinet would have different ministers from communities and age groups and genders. So they'll be like, okay, we are represented in the prime minister and the cabinet, that part, and we have a leader to look up to. Okay. So I hope that point is clear to you all. Little advanced than the other points we discussed. Right. Then, of course, you have the checks and balances system. Checks and balances means we are studying checks and balances in Unit 9 in detail, but here I'll just give you in a nutshell. It's basically the governmental bodies having checks on, like checking on each other, keeping checks on each other, and balancing each other's powers, like just controlling each other's powers, so none of the institutes are too powerful. So you can see that it creates checks and balance system because you have a prime minister and a cabinet and a president, so they sort of control each other's powers, which prevents either of them going out of control. So if I read both points, responsibility of uniting the country while protecting diversity. The president of a mixed executive system can act as a solitary leader who represents every citizen, while the prime minister and the cabinet can, in fact, provide representation for different ethnic groups for their desires. Therefore, this system could be ideal in a multi ethnic country as a uh, mean, as a mean of uniting the nation without compromising diversity. Okay. Then next one, creating checks and balance system. Since the mixed executive system has two institutes in the executive, both the president and the prime minister do not have the opportunity to exercise unchecked power. This means that the president and the prime minister would control each other as a checks and balances system. Next one, the possibility of determining public opinion more frequently. This one is not that advanced. This one is pretty easy. As you guys know that you can have elections, you have to have elections quite often, right? So in the semi-presidential system, as you saw in that depiction that I showed you, right? If I show you that once more, right? So you can see that you have to have a presidential election separate, you have to have parliamentary election separate. This is a fact, like if you are having a semi-presidential system, you have to have a lot of elections. You have to have presidential elections, you have to have parliamentary elections, and that way you get to figure out whether people's opinion have changed quite often, right? Because you saw in the presidential system, normally in the US and all, you have a presidential in 2016, they had an election where they thought Donald Trump was a good president. They had to wait until 2020 to see whether people have changed their opinion. It turned out to people had changed, but like quite a long time before, and they didn't have a chance to really check it out, right? So, but here you can see now, if I take this cohabitation example, right? So you can see when they had the first election, they were happy with the Green Party, which is why the Green person won the presidential election. But quite soon after that, the people had changed their mind, and the blue people had more power. They won the parliamentary election, right? So if they didn't have this parliament, this part, and if they only had like the presidential election, you have to wait till the next presidential election to find out what sort of a public opinion they have. Okay, and that is explained in this system. In this point. A mixed executive system requires two national elections, the presidential election and a parliamentary election. Therefore, in a mixed executive system, elections are more frequent. Therefore, these elections provide frequent opportunities to determine public opinion without waiting for the completion of the term. Example, in 1999, President Chandrika Bandaranaike was elected for a 6-year term. However, 2 years later, her party lost the parliamentary election to Ranil Wickremesinghe's UNP, which showed that the public opinion had changed within 2 years. In 2004, UNP lost the parliamentary election, which showed that the public opinion had changed yet again in less than 3 years. So if you see that if they didn't have that system, you had to wait till 2005 to have the next election. And the public opinion had changed several times in between that. So you get a chance to actually figure out what's going on in the public opinion more frequently if you have this executive format, right? So I hope that you guys are clear, right? So we've discussed the main features, we've discussed the advantages, disadvantages. Now let's take a look at the disadvantages. If you have any questions, of course, this will be on YouTube, right? So you can drop a message to my WhatsApp, or you can drop a comment in the YouTube section, or you can ask me in the next class. Right, disadvantages. So what is the first one? Simply the very reason that you call it semi-presidential, president being too powerful, right? So sometimes you feel like it's actually pointless going mixed executive, semi-presidential, because president runs the show anyway. So why not go complete president anyway? Some people actually ask that question. It's pointless having the prime minister because prime minister and the cabinet doesn't have much power unless you have a cohabitation going on. It's president is pretty much running the show. Prime minister has nothing to do. Ministers are very much dominated by the president. So which raises the question: why not go full presidential and just do the job quite easy? Okay. Although the mixed executive system features both a president and a prime minister, in practical politics, the powers are dominated by the president, except in cohabitation governments, while which the prime minister and the cabinet hardly have any reasonable influence on the political system. The president already holds the positions of head of the state, executive, government, and armed forces, which makes the prime minister a supporting character. This has led some political scientists to define the mixed executive system as a presidential system in disguise. So this is one of the disadvantages, that the president runs the show. So the whole idea of mixing things up, hybrid versions like combining, doesn't really uh, benefit when president is being so dominant, right? Then, of course, internal political conflicts. Prime minister and the president often gets into troubles, like issues. Even sometimes when they are from the same party, but when in cohabitation, this is like, oh, this is very bad. This is like quite frequent in a cohabitation government, because they are, those two are from two different parties. And even if you like think of like Sri Lankan history, very recent history, the previous government, you might remember that Ranil Wickremesinghe and Maithripala Sirisena got into like a lot of conflicts at the latter years of their government. Okay. Because both of them, like there are two people steering the ship, prime minister and the cabinet. So sorry, prime minister and the president. So they are most likely to get into conflicts, right? Due to the fact that mixed executive system consists of two authorities, it is more likely for a power struggle to occur within the executive itself. President and the prime minister could engage in political sparring due to a difference in opinions. This is more observable in cohabitation governments, right? Then, of course, this one is a very technical term. If you understood cohabitations, you would understand this really well. Conflict of interest of the president. Now, if we go back to that depiction of a cohabitation government, right? Now you can see that president is coming from the Green Party, right? Whereas the government is technically ran by the Blue Party, right? So these Green Party guys are the opposition party in the parliament. Okay, so the president is he technically the president is the leader of this party, right? Now when we had this system in, like when Ranil and Chandrika were here, like when Chandrika was the president here and Ranil was the prime minister and his friends were the ministers, parliament majority was held by Ranil's party and the opposition was held by Chandrika's party, right? So the opposition leader was Ratnasiri Wickramanayake, but technically the party leader was Chandrika. For her party, Chandrika was like the leader. Okay, so Chandrika is like the head of the opposition party. And what is ironic is that the prime minister and the cabinet should have meetings, right, which are called cabinet meetings. And the cabinet meetings should be confidential, especially from the opposition party. Okay, because the opposition is waiting to attack. So the cabinet meetings should be confidential. But the problem is who takes the chair in the cabinet meetings. President takes the chair in the cabinet meetings. Okay, so just look at the irony. These blue guys are like having a cabinet meeting. These blue guys are having a meeting, right? And their main intention is to keep it away from these green guys, keeping it confidential from these green guys. But the leader of these green guys would come and sit in the chair, in the main chair of the cabinet meeting they're having. So this creates a conflict uh, because if you are the opposition party in the parliament, your job is to sabotage the government. Like some people scold the opposition saying they are never helping, they are always trying to pull government's leg, they are not helping them. Of course, that's their job, right? If you are the opposition, your job is to attack the government. So, as the leader of that party, the president has to sabotage the government. But on the other hand, as the chair of the board of ministers, the president has a task, a duty to help the executive as well. So these are conflict of interest. As the head of the executive, the president is supposed to help them. As the leader of this opposition party, the president is supposed to sabotage them, right? So it's a conflict of interest, like when you sort of have to like sabotage them and help them at the same time, right? Which is why the president sort of like technically the president should stay away. Like, maybe the president should not take part in these cabinet meetings and stuff. That's not how it went. Like, there are a lot of interesting stories of, when Chandrika Bandaranaike was the president and Ranil Wickremesinghe was having cabinet meetings, them sort of like discriminating Chandrika in meetings and them having like unofficial cabinet meetings separately. A lot of interesting stories, which I will share with you all on another day. Hopefully, when we are studying the 78 Constitution. Okay, so that's the weakness, that's the disadvantage, right? When a mixed executive system is experiencing a cohabitation government, the president of the country is in fact a member of the opposition party of the parliament. Although the president is expected to act as a nominal executive, technically he or she is still the head of the executive. The president still sits in the main chair in cabinet meetings, which is a conflict of interest as a member of the opposition sitting in a cabinet meeting, compromising the confidentiality of the meeting. Right? Supposed to be confidential from the very people that you are supposed to keep this as a secret from. Then, of course, this one is like the really sad one, both efficiency and democracy being compromised. Now, the whole point of putting these two together was to make sure that, you protect the pros of both sides. And you sort of end up like having the cons of both sides and you end up ruining both, right? Although it is argued that the existence of a strong president and a responsible prime minister would protect both efficiency and democracy, it is also argued that this would, on the contrary, compromise them. The arbitrary power of the president compromises democracy, while the instability of the prime minister and the cabinet results in inefficiency, right? So you end up creating a government is neither efficient, neither democratic. Like if you at least took cabinet system or the presidential system, you would have at least protected one, right? So you try to protect both and you end up compromising both. Now, of course, this one is like a straightforward one, being more expensive. Since the mixed executive system has two executive institutes, two separate elections should be held. In addition, the administration requires funds and resources twice. Therefore, mixed executive system costs more than a cabinet or a presidential system. The reputation of the prime minister, cabinet, and the president being damaged, right? So these are like very prestigious words in political science. If you go to Britain, prime minister and the cabinet, those are like very respectable, very powerful positions with like political personalities. But in a cabinet system, although they are prestigious, in a semi-presidential system, since the prime minister and the cabinet gets like very limited powers and they are heavily dominated by the president, it's sort of like the reputation of those positions are being undermined. Like you have a prime minister in Sri Lanka who's incapable of everything because president runs the show and prime minister has nothing to do, right? So when you say Sri Lankan prime minister, it doesn't give you a good personality, and that undermines the meaning of the word. Also, the word president. Now you take USA. In the USA, president is like a prestigious word. Like the president is their first citizen, right? But when you have a cohabitation, as I told you before, the president is like someone with a conflict of interest who's supposed to sabotage and help the government at the same time. So all these words sort of lose their value, and these words are being undermined because of this system, right? The parliamentary system is a political tradition that was introduced to the world by Great Britain. In the cabinet form of government, the institute of parliament, the position of the prime minister and other cabinet ministers are considered highly respectable and reputable concepts. However, these concepts are quite ineffective and powerless in a mixed system due to the powers of the president. This creates a weak political image of these institutes in the political world. Okay, it's not mentioned about the cohabitations, but of course, in cohabitations also, position of the president is also damaged. Okay, now we should be moving on to the last two formats. These formats are quite straightforward, not even advanced as close, like remotely advanced as what we studied before. Autocratic format. So basically, this is a format where all the powers are centralized at one person, as this neither presidential, neither prime minister, or neither mixed. Okay, it's basically one person handling all the powers and being power centralized. Okay, so this is practically a dictatorship. Okay, right? So an autocratic executive is basically a non-democratic executive which is not appointed by the people, uh, responsible to the people, or can be removed by the people. Okay. So you can see that I have included a couple of autocratic leaders here. There is Kim Jong Un, the North Korean leader, and this is the Saudi king, and this is Hitler, right? So basically, this is a fascist leader. Hitler is a fascist leader. This Saudi king is a monarch, and this person is he's not a fascist, but he's still a dictator, right? So this governance could be led by a single person or a single party. Either it could be a single party governance or it could be a single person governance. So modern day autocratic governments are mostly either absolute monarchies or dictatorships, right? So you need to keep in mind there are three types of monarchies. If you have like a pen and a paper, you may jot down. You have symbolic monarchies, you have constitutional monarchies, and you have absolute monarchies. So basically, monarchy is like a king, right? So some countries have symbolic monarchies, like Thailand and all. Thailand, Malaysia, they have like a royal family, they have a king, but that's like a symbol. That's like a cultural symbol they have. It's just they have nothing to do with politics. They have nothing to do with the constitution. They have like a separate constitutional government going on, um, and that's symbolic. The monarchy is completely symbolic. Then you have constitutional monarchs like the British Queen, right? So that means the Queen has certain political duties to fulfill, but she does that according to a constitution. The Queen is also sort of bound by a constitution. And you have absolute monarchies like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Brunei, as it's mentioned here, and there are some countries in Africa, I think. So where you have like a king, you basically have a king. You don't have like a legislature and all that. It's not a symbolic king. It's not a constitutional king. It's an absolute king, like what we used to have like 300, 400 years back. That kind of a king. Okay. And of course, there is this African country that you have a monarch like that, Wakanda. In Wakanda also, there is an absolute monarch like that, King T'Challa. Okay. The ones who don't understand, ones who don't watch Marvel movies, don't get like misguided. Was reference to one of the Marvel Avengers character called Wakanda. It was a king in an African country called Wakanda. They have a king called T'Challa, the Black Panther, the superhero. Okay, then you have dictatorships. There's North Korea, Belarus, Eritrea. In these countries, you have dictators. Practically, they are not kings, they are not monarchs. It's just they are dictators. They capture the power and they are handling the power. I think the North Korean dictator is the most popular one out of these. Right? An autocratic government is basically a power centralized system. This means that the executive holds all powers without a limit, and the legislature and the judiciary either have very limited power or do not exist at all. Okay, in Saudi Arabia, no legislature at all. Some countries do have, but they have like very limited power. The term dictatorship is mostly associated with a single person-based autocracy. A group-based autocracy is generally known as a totalitarian government, right? Meanwhile, the political theory of fascism is a theory on the state that supports this idea of an autocracy. However, not all autocratic governments and dictatorships are considered fascist, since fascism has unique features as a theory. Now you see, like what Hitler used to have; those are fascist countries. Like obviously, fascist countries support the idea of an autocracy, but not all the autocratic countries are fascist. Right? North Korea is not fascist. Saudi Arabia is not fascist. Right? So it has its own unique features. It has to be like Hitler's Germany or Mussolini's Italy. And the other thing, like if it's a single person or governance, you call it an autocracy, single person based dictatorship. If it's a group based dictatorship, you normally call it a totalitarian government. But of course, keep in mind that these words are like, these are not like specific like the previous ones we studied, not like presidential cabinet systems, because now basically even if it's like a totalitarian government where you have a group in charge, that group has a leader, right? So and even when you take a country like North Korea where a leader is running the country, the leader has a group to support him. So it's very difficult to draw a line and say this is a single person based autocracy, this is a group based autocracy, because even single based ones have a group and even the groups have a leader. So This is just a general categorization, not like an absolute exclusive categorization. It's not like exact. Okay. Right. Then we're moving on to the last one, unique and special formats. Basically, some countries in the world have decided to go their own way, not taking either of the ways, right? So there's nothing to explain here because this is not exactly a category per se. This is like basically like saying other. So we discussed four formats: presidential, cabinet, semi-presidential, and autocratic. And now we are looking at whatever that doesn't belong, whatever that that won't fall under that under those four. Okay. So certain countries in the world have opted to follow unique executive formats which are different from parliamentary, presidential, mixed, or autocratic systems. These can be categorized as special executives, right? So best I can do is I can give an example here, right? Switzerland has a special executive which is known as the Federal Council. It is a council of 7 members that functions as a collective executive. This council is chaired by a chairman who is known as the president. However, this chairman has no special powers besides those of his fellow members. The chairman also changes every year. So this is the Federal Council. Okay, these 7 people are the Federal Council. They are the ones. This is the executive of Switzerland. Okay, so these 7 people are in charge of the country. Okay, 7 people are in charge of the country, and they have 4 years of a term. Their official term is 4 years, right? So they have a chairman. This council has a chairman, right? One of these 7 people is considered as a chairman. So they use the word president, but let's not even remotely close to that the president of the presidential system that we are familiar with. Okay, so out of these people, right, one is basically like let's say this person. Let's say this person is the president, but only for this year. Next year it changes to this person. Next year it changes to this person. Next year it changes to this lady. Okay, so like that. So every year the chairman position changes, and also that the chairman has no special powers compared to other people. All these 7 people have equal powers. Just one of them is like just the leader. I mean, like you take like something like a cricket team, right? You take a cricket team as a captain, right? That doesn't mean that he gets to bowl extra hours or he gets to bat like for 2-3 wickets extra, right? The captain is also just another player in the team. Just like every other bowler can bowl a maximum of 10 overs, the captain also can only bowl 10 overs, right? Just like any other batsman gets out once, you have to leave the ground. Captain also gets out once, you have to leave the ground. So it doesn't matter who's the captain when it comes to the rules. So it's similar. Out of these 7 people, all the 7 people have equal powers, including the chairman, him or herself, right? And it changes year to year. That's they are having a chairman because you need to have a person in charge of the country, right? You have to have a person in charge of the country, like the head of the state. You have to have a first citizen of the country, which is why they have someone declared as the president, who's the chairman. But that chairman doesn't have any special powers. All 7 of them have equal powers, and these people are selected from the legislature through the legislature, right? But unlike a prime minister and a cabinet, these people don't have to leave if one of their decisions is disapproved in the Swiss legislature. So you can see it's a very unique system. Even Spain has kind of like a similar system. So these are known as uh, unique systems because these don't fall into any of the above ones. Okay. Right. So if you took part in all the theory classes and if you watch this video and if you made it to the end of this video, that means that you are done with the 4th unit as well, which means that we can move ahead. If you have any questions as usual, either you can comment on this video or you can drop me a message or you can ask me in the next class. Okay, right.